Captain Veltar pressed his 4 fingers against the cold metal of the command console and felt the vibrations running through the ship like a dying heartbeat. The stellar harmony had been the pride of the Valerian passenger fleet just 3 days ago when they left the safety of the inner systems. Now she was dying in the empty darkness between stars and taking 847 souls with her. The main engine had failed first, with a sound like thunder that echoed through every deck. Then the backup system started going offline, one by one like lights being turned off in a house at night. The engineering team had worked without sleep for 2 days, but their blue skin had turned pale gray with exhaustion and fear. Chief Engineer Nalavan had finally come to the bridge an hour ago with tears in his large black eyes. "The containment field is collapsing, sir," he had said in a voice so quiet that Veltar had to lean forward to hear him. "We have maybe 6 hours before total system failure. After that, the life support will last another 18 hours at most." Veltar looked around the bridge at his crew. Communications Officer Pilara was still sending out distress signals, but her movements were slow and tired. Navigator Zalmoth stared at his screens showing the empty space around them. The nearest civilized system was 3 days away at best speed, and they no longer had best speed. They no longer had any speed at all. "Keep broadcasting," Veltar told Pilara, even though they both knew it was probably useless. This was the outer rim where pirates and worse things hunted in the darkness between worlds. Most ships that traveled here were either very fast or very well armed. The stellar harmony was neither. The passengers did not know yet how bad things were. Veltar had ordered the crew to tell them it was just engine trouble and they would be moving again soon. But soon the lights would start going out and the air would start getting cold and thin. Then everyone would know. Veltar had been a ship captain for 30 years. He had seen engine failures and pirate attacks and solar storms that could cook a ship from the inside. But he had never faced certain death like this, with so many innocent people depending on him. Most of the passengers were families going to visit relatives in the outer colonies. There were children aboard who still played in the recreation areas and asked their parents when they would see the pretty stars again. "Sir," Pilara said suddenly, and her voice had a strange note in it. "I'm getting a response to our distress call." Veltar felt his heart jump. "What ship? What system?" "It's a cargo vessel called the Iron Crane," she said, and then paused. "Sir, the registration codes show it's from Earth." The bridge became very quiet. Earth, the home world of the humans, the Deathworlders, every civilized being in the galaxy knew about humans. They came from a world so dangerous that just living there made them into something barely controlled and always ready for violence. Their planet had weather that could kill and animals that ate other animals and plants that could poison you, just by touching them. The humans had survived all of this and then built ships and spread out among the stars like a plague of warriors. The stories about them were told in whispers across 1,000 worlds. They were said to be tall and strong with sharp teeth and eyes that could see in the dark. They fought wars for fun and killed without feeling guilt. Their ships were built like weapons, and their crews were trained from birth to be soldiers. They had never lost a battle, and they took slaves from every species they conquered. "Are you sure it's human?" Veltar asked. Pilara checked her readings twice. "Yes, sir. The Iron Crane out of Sol Earth. They say they received our distress call and are coming to help." Navigator Zalmoth turned pale. "Sir, maybe we should not answer them. Maybe we should keep looking for another ship." "There is no other ship," Veltar said quietly. "We have 6 hours until the engines fail completely. They are the only ones who responded." The bridge crew looked at each other with fear in their eyes. They all knew the stories. Humans did not help other species. They conquered them or enslaved them or worse. If the Iron Crane was coming, it was not to rescue 800 Valerians. It was to take them. But what choice did they have? Die slowly as the air ran out and the cold crept in? or face whatever the humans would do to them. How long until they reach us? Veltar asked. They say 4 hours, sir, Pilara replied. They're pushing their engines hard to get here fast. 4 hours. Veltar closed his eyes and tried to think. Should he tell the passengers? Should he prepare them for what might happen when the humans arrived? Should he order the crew to arm themselves even though their small defense weapons would be useless against Deathworlder technology? Sir, said Pilara again. The human captain is asking to speak with you directly. Veltar's hands shook as he activated the communication system. A screen flickered to life, and he found himself looking at a human face for the first time in his life. The human looked younger than Veltar had expected, with dark hair and brown eyes that seemed calm and friendly. He wore a simple blue uniform with captain's marks on the collar. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Iron Crane, the human said, and his voice was steady and professional. We received your distress call and we're on our way to help. Can you tell me your current situation? Veltar stared at the screen. The human did not look like a monster. He looked like any other ship captain Veltar had worked with over the years, professional and concerned and ready to help. We have engine failure, Veltar said carefully. Main. Power is failing and life support will not last long. How many people are aboard your ship? Hyunwoo asked. 847 passengers and crew. The human nodded. We'll have you out of there soon. My engineer is already working on ways to get your systems back online. Are there any injuries we should know about? Veltar found himself answering questions about hull damage and power levels and passenger conditions. The human captain asked good questions and seemed to know what he was talking about. He did not sound like someone planning to attack them, but Veltar knew better than to trust appearances. Humans were said to be very clever and very good at hiding their true intentions until it was too late. Captain Veltar, Hyunwoo said, after they had talked for several minutes. I want you to know that my crew and I are here to help. We're not going to hurt anyone. We just want to get your people to safety. Why? Veltar asked before he could stop himself. Hyunwoo looked surprised. Because you need help. That's what we do. The transmission ended and Veltar sat back in his chair, feeling more confused than ever. The human had seemed so normal, so helpful. But everyone knew that humans were dangerous. The stories could not all be wrong. Sir, said Chief Engineer Nalvin from the bridge doorway. Should I tell the engineering team that humans are coming? They'll want to know. Veltar looked around at his crew again. They were all waiting for orders, waiting for him to decide what to do when the Deathworlders arrived. Tell the crew to remain calm, he said finally. Tell them to follow standard, first contact protocols, and do exactly what the humans say. Tell them not to make any sudden movements or loud noises. What about the passengers, sir? Veltar thought about 800 families huddled in their cabins waiting for rescue. Waiting. For him to save them. Tell them help is coming, he said. That's all they need to know for now. As his crew went to spread the word, Veltar remained on the bridge watching the sensors that showed a small ship approaching fast through the darkness. In 4 hours, they would learn if the stories about humans were true. In 4 hours, they would discover what Deathworlders really wanted with a ship full of helpless Valerians. He just hoped some of them would survive to tell others what they learned. The docking clamps made a deep metal sound that echoed through the stellar harmony like the footsteps of giants. Captain Veltar stood in the main airlock with 6 of his best crew members and tried not to show how much his hands were shaking. Behind the sealed doors of the passenger sections, 800 Valerians waited in fear for whatever was about to happen. Remember, Veltar told his crew one more time. No sudden movements. Keep your hands visible. Do exactly what they tell us to do. Our goal is to keep everyone alive. Communications Officer Pilara checked her scanner readings. The human ship has a good seal, sir. Atmosphere is compatible. They're requesting permission to board. Veltar took a deep breath of air that might be some of the last free air any of them would ever breathe. Grant permission. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss, and Veltar got his first look at real living humans. He had expected monsters, but what he saw confused him completely. Two humans stepped through the airlock wearing simple work clothes and carrying metal toolboxes instead of weapons. They looked so normal that for a moment Veltar wondered if there had been some mistake. The first human was the captain they had spoken with earlier. Hyunwoo was not as tall as the stories said humans were supposed to be. He was maybe a head taller than Veltar, but not the giant warrior from the legends. His face was calm and friendly, and he smiled when he saw the Valerian crew. Captain Veltar, Hyunwoo said and held out his hand in what Veltar knew was a human greeting gesture. Thank you for letting us aboard. This is my chief engineer, Nari. We're here to help. The female human named Nari was even smaller than her captain, with short black hair and bright eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She was already looking around the airlock and checking the wall panels with her scanner devices. Your main power coupling is in worse shape than I thought, she said to no one in particular. We need to get to your engine room right away. Veltar found himself walking with the humans through the corridors of his ship and still waiting for them to show their true nature. But they just kept acting like helpful engineers. Hyunwoo asked questions about the ship layout and passenger locations, while Nari examined every system they passed with professional interest. How long has the main engine been making that grinding sound? Nari asked as they walked. 2 days, replied Chief Engineer Nalavin, who had joined them. We tried everything but could not fix it. The magnetic containment field is probably cracked, Nari said. It's a common problem on ships this age when they push the engines too hard. Don't worry, we can fix it. They reached the main engineering section, and Nari immediately went to work. She opened her toolbox and pulled out devices that Veltar had never seen before. Human technology was supposed to be all weapons and military equipment, but these looked like normal repair tools. Captain, said Navigator Zalmoth quietly. Should we call security? Veltar looked at the humans who were now crawling around his engine room like they owned it. Nari had somehow gotten inside a maintenance shaft that was too small for any Valerian to fit through. Her voice echoed from inside the walls as she called out readings to Hyunwoo. No, Veltar said. Let them work. Word spread through the ship, faster than Veltar had expected. The humans were not what anyone had thought they would be. Crew members started gathering in the corridors to get a look at the famous Deathworlders. The humans ignored the attention and focused on their work. Nari emerged from the maintenance shaft covered in grease and looking pleased. Found the problem, she announced. The primary magnetic coil is cracked in 3 places. I can fix it, but I'll need to shut down life support for about an hour while I realign the power grid. Shut down life support? Nalavin asked with alarm. Don't worry, Hyunwoo said. Our ship has portable atmosphere generators. We'll keep the air flowing. And that was when the third human appeared. Dr. Minho came through the airlock carrying medical equipment and looking like he had been hurrying. He was older than the other two, with gray in his black hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of years spent helping others. Sorry I'm late, he said to Hyunwoo. I was checking the medical files you sent me. Captain Veltar, I understand you. Have some injured crew members from the initial engine failure. Veltar stared at him. You want to help our injured? That's what doctors do, Minho said with a smile. May I see them? This was the moment Veltar had been dreading. Humans in the medical bay where they could hurt people who could not defend themselves. But the injured crew members needed help, and the ship's doctor had already used up most of their medical supplies. Follow me, Veltar said. The medical bay was small and crowded with 6 crew members who had been hurt when the engine first failed. Burns from plasma conduits and broken bones from falling debris. The ship's doctor looked up nervously as the humans entered. Minho went straight to the most seriously injured crew member without being told who needed help first. His hands moved over the patient with practiced skill as he examined wounds and checked vital signs. This burn is infected, he said. You need a stronger antibiotic than what you have. Lucky for you, I brought some. He opened his medical kit and began treating the injured Valerian with the same care he would show for one of his own species. His hands were gentle and his voice was soft as he explained what he was doing. This might sting a little, he warned before applying a healing gel to a bad burn, but it will help the skin grow back faster. The injured crew member looked up at Minho with wonder. You are helping me? Of course I am, Minho said. You're hurt and I'm a doctor. That's how it works. While Minho worked in the medical bay, Nari had returned to the engine room and was doing things that should have been impossible. She lifted heavy components that normally took 3 Valerians to move and crawled through spaces that were barely large enough for a child. Her strength was frightening, but she used it carefully and never broke anything. How are they so strong? Whispered one of the engineering crew. Deathworld evolution, Nalavan whispered back. Their planet made them that way, but as they watched Nari work, they realized her strength was not being used to hurt anyone. She was using it to save them, to fix their ship and get them home safely. Captain Hyunwoo spent his time organizing the repair work and coordinating with his own ship. He moved through the stellar harmony like he belonged there, and crew members found themselves answering his questions and following his suggestions without thinking about it. Your communication array took some damage from the power surges. He told Pilara, we can boost your signal strength with our equipment until you get to a proper repair station. You would do that for us? She asked. Why wouldn't we? Hyunwoo replied. As the hours passed more and more, Valerians began to relax around the humans. Children started peeking out of passenger quarters to get a look at the legendary Deathworlders. When they saw Nari waving at them from inside an access panel, they waved back and giggled. They're not what the stories said, one passenger whispered to another. Maybe the stories were wrong, came the reply. Dr. Minho had finished treating all the injured crew and was now checking on passengers who had been feeling sick from the failing life support systems. He moved through the ship with his medical scanner and a seemingly endless supply of medicines for every condition. Your grandmother has low blood oxygen, he told a worried family. This will help her breathe easier until we get the atmospheric processors working again. The old Valerian woman looked up at the human doctor with tears in her eyes. Why are you being so kind to us, stranger? Minho sat down beside her bed so he would not tower over her. Because you need help and I can provide it. That's reason enough. By the end of the first day, the humans had restored partial power to 3 decks and gotten the life support system stable again. They worked without stopping and never complained about the long hours or difficult conditions. They shared their food with the Valerian crew and answered questions about human culture and their homeworld. Earth really has animals that hunt other animals? Asked a young crew member. Oh yes, Nari said while she worked on a power coupling. Lions and tigers and bears, sharks in the oceans and eagles in the sky, but we learned to live with them. Weren't you afraid? Nari paused in her work and thought about the question. Sometimes, but fear teaches you to be careful, to be smart, to work together with others so everyone stays safe. That night as the crew rested, Veltar found himself alone with Captain Hyunwoo on the bridge. The human was checking sensor readings and monitoring the repair work. Your people are not what we expected, Veltar said finally. Hyunwoo looked up from his work. What did you expect? Monsters, Veltar admitted. Warriors who would hurt us or take us as slaves. Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. The galaxy is afraid of us. We know that. Some of that fear might be earned. Humans can be very dangerous. When we need to be. But most of the time we don't need to be. Most of the time we just want to help. Why? Because, Hyunwoo said, as he turned back to his sensors. Someone has to. The repair work had been going well for almost 2 days when the sensors started screaming warnings across the bridge of the stellar harmony. Captain Veltar was in the engine room watching Nari make final adjustments to the magnetic containment. field when Communications Officer Pilara's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "Captain, to the bridge immediately," she said, and there was something in her voice that made everyone stop what they were doing. "We have incoming ships." Veltar ran through the corridors faster than he had moved in years with Captain Hyunwoo right behind him. When they reached the bridge, Pilara was staring at her sensor screens with wide, frightened eyes. "3 ships, sir," she reported, "coming out of hyperspace directly ahead of us. They're big, and they're moving fast." Veltar looked at the sensor readings and felt his heart sink. The ships were Korthak raiders. Everyone in the galaxy knew what that meant. The Korthaks were pirates who traveled in packs and took everything they could carry from the ships they captured. They sold their prisoners as slaves to the worst parts of the galaxy and killed anyone who tried to resist them. "Distance?" Veltar asked. 30 minutes at their current speed, sir. 30 minutes. Veltar closed his eyes and tried to think, but his mind felt frozen with fear. After everything they had been through, after the humans had worked so hard to save them, now this. Captain Hyunwoo moved to the sensor station and studied the readings with calm professional interest. "Korthak. Raiders," he said quietly. 3 ships. Looks like a standard hunting pack." "You know about Korthaks?" Veltar asked. "We've run into them before," Hyunwoo replied. "They usually travel in groups of 3 or 4 ships and prefer to attack disabled vessels. They're not very good fighters, but they make up for it with numbers and brutality." Veltar stared at the human captain. He was talking about deadly pirates like they were a minor inconvenience, like he had dealt with this situation many times before. "Captain Hyunwoo," Veltar said carefully, "you should take your people and leave now while you still can. There's no reason for you to stay and die with us." Hyunwoo looked at him with surprise. "Leave? We're not leaving. But the Korthaks will kill you too if you stay. Will they?" Hyunwoo asked, and there was something different in his voice now, something harder. "Nari," he called into his communication device. "How long until the Stellar Harmony's engines are back online?" Nari's voice came back immediately. 20 minutes for basic propulsion, sir. Maybe 30 for full power." "The raiders will be here in 30 minutes, Pilara said. Hyunwoo nodded and touched his communication device again. "Nari, finish what you're doing and get back to our ship. Minho, report to the Iron Crane immediately. We have company coming." "What kind of company, sir?" came Minho's voice. "The unfriendly kind," Hyunwoo replied. 3 Korthak raiders looking for easy prey." There was a pause, and then Minho's voice came back, sounding different than before, more focused. "On my way, sir." Veltar watched as Captain Hyunwoo transformed before his eyes. The friendly, helpful engineer disappeared and was replaced by something that looked very much like the warriors from the stories about Deathworlders. His movements became more precise, and his eyes seemed to see everything at once. "Captain Veltar," Hyunwoo said, "I need you to move all your passengers to the center sections of the ship away from the outer hull. Have your crew seal the blast doors and prepare for possible hull breaches." "You're going to fight them?" Veltar asked. "I'm going to try to convince them to leave peacefully," Hyunwoo said. "But yes, if it comes to fighting, we'll fight them." "There are 3 of them, and only one of you." Hyunwoo smiled, and it was not the friendly smile he had worn for the past 2 days. This smile was sharp and cold, and made Veltar remember why humans were called Deathworlders. "Numbers don't always matter," Hyunwoo said. "Sometimes it's about who wants to win more." The communication system crackled to life, and a harsh voice filled the bridge. "Disabled ships," the voice said in broken galactic standard. "This is Captain Grixtal of the Korthak Raider Pack. You will surrender your vessels and all passengers immediately. Resistance will result in death." Hyunwoo walked calmly to the communication station and activated the transmitter. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the cargo vessel Iron Crane. he said in the same polite tone he had used when first offering to help. The Valerians. We're currently conducting rescue operations. Please stand clear of this area. There was silence for a moment, and then the sound of harsh laughter came through the speakers. Human, Grixtal said, and there was amusement in his voice. You think you can order us around? We take both ships now. You and Valerians become slaves, or you die. I'm afraid I can't allow that, Hyunwoo said, and his voice remained perfectly calm and reasonable. These people are under my protection now. More laughter from the raiders. Your protection? You are one small cargo ship against 3 war vessels. You have no weapons, no shields. You will die quickly, and we will take everything you have. Veltar looked at the sensor readings again. The Korthak ships were getting closer, and they were indeed heavily armed. The Iron Crane was just a cargo vessel. How could one human ship possibly fight 3 raiders? Captain Veltar, Hyunwoo said. Please make sure your people are secured and ready for combat maneuvers. Things are about to get interesting. Veltar gave the orders and watched his crew run to battle stations they had never expected to use. The Stellar Harmony was not a warship. They had only basic defensive systems and no real weapons to speak of. But the humans seemed confident that they could protect everyone. Through the bridge windows, Veltar could see the Iron Crane undocking from their ship and moving into open space between the Stellar Harmony and the approaching raiders. The human vessel looked small and helpless compared to the massive Korthak warships. This is your last warning, human. Grixtal's voice came over the communication system. Surrender now, or we destroy you first and take the Valerian ship anyway. Hyunwoo activated the transmitter one more time. Grixtal, he said, and now his voice had changed completely. Gone was the polite, helpful captain. This voice was hard as metal and cold as space. You have 30 seconds to change course and leave this system. If you continue your approach, I will consider it an act of aggression and respond accordingly. You threaten us? Grixtal sounded genuinely surprised. You are one ship. We are 3. You will die. 20 seconds, Hyunwoo said calmly. Veltar watched the sensors and saw the Korthak ships continuing their approach without slowing down. They were 15 minutes away now and coming fast. The Iron Crane hung in space looking tiny against the star field. 15 seconds, Hyunwoo announced. Captain, Veltar said. Maybe you should reconsider. They really do have 3 ships, and yours is just a cargo vessel. Hyunwoo looked at him with those cold eyes. Captain Veltar, have you ever heard the human saying about a cornered rat? No, even a cornered rat will bite, Hyunwoo said. And humans bite much harder than rats. 10 seconds, he announced over the communication system. The Korthak ships kept coming. 5 seconds. Still no change in their course. Hyunwoo touched his communication device. Nari, are you ready? All systems green, sir, came Nari's voice, and she sounded eager. Weapons are powered and targeting systems are locked on. Minho? Ready, sir. The doctor's voice had changed, too. He sounded like a soldier now instead of a healer. Time's up, Hyunwoo announced to the raiders. Last chance to change your minds. Die, human. Grixtal snarled. No, Hyunwoo said quietly. You first. That was when Veltar learned that there was much more to human cargo ships than anyone had suspected. The Iron Crane suddenly bloomed with weapon ports that had been hidden beneath false hull plates. Energy cannons emerged from concealed positions and missile launchers deployed from what had looked like cargo containers. What? Veltar whispered. Did you really think? Hyunwoo said as he watched his ship transform into a warship. That humans would send unarmed vessels into the Outer Rim where pirates hunt? Every human ship that travels these routes is built to fight. The Iron Crane accelerated toward the Korthak raiders with impossible speed. The cargo vessel moved like a fighter. Craft despite its size, it twisted and rolled through space in ways that should have been impossible. Beginning attack run. Nari's voice came through the communication system. Targets locked. Take the lead ship first, Hyunwoo ordered. Disable their engines, but don't destroy them unless they give us no choice. Understood, sir. Veltar watched. Through the bridge windows as the iron crane opened fire on the closest Korthak raider. Beams of energy lanced across space and struck the enemy ship's engine section with surgical precision. The raider ship shuddered and began to spin out of control as its propulsion systems failed. Impossible! Grixtal's voice came over the communication system. How do you have such weapons? We're humans, Hyunwoo replied simply. We come prepared. The other two Korthak ships began firing at the iron crane, but the human vessel was moving too fast and too unpredictably for them to get a solid lock. It danced between their weapons fire like it was playing a game. Second. Target, Nari announced. Firing. Another precise strike, and another Korthak ship found itself drifting helpless with dead engines. The third raider tried to run, but the iron crane was faster. It caught up with the fleeing ship and disabled it just as efficiently as the others. The battle should have been over, but Captain Grixtal was not the kind of pirate who gave up easily. As the iron crane moved to check on the disabled Korthak ships, the lead raider suddenly came back to life. Emergency power flickered through its systems and backup weapons came online. He's still got fight left in him, Nari reported from the iron crane. Emergency systems are powering weapons and he's trying to restart his engines. Captain Veltar watched the sensors with growing alarm. Even damage the Korthak ship was still dangerous. Its main guns were offline, but it had smaller weapons that could still do serious damage to the unarmored Stellar Harmony. Human. Grixtal's voice snarled over the communication system. You think you have won, but we are not finished. If we cannot take your ships as prizes, then we will destroy them. Better to have nothing than let prey escape, the damaged raider. Ship turned toward the Stellar Harmony and began charging its remaining weapons. Veltar realized with horror that the pirate captain intended to ram them. The Korthak ship was bigger and heavier than the passenger liner. Even damaged it could tear the Stellar Harmony apart. All passengers brace for impact, Veltar called over the ship's communication system. Emergency crash positions now. But Captain Hyunwoo was already moving. The iron crane accelerated toward the Korthak ship with incredible speed. What happened next would be talked about in space academies for years to come. Instead of simply shooting the raider ship, Hyunwoo did something that should have been impossible. He activated his ship's tractor beam and grabbed the front section of the Korthak vessel just as it was about to fire. Then he used his own ship's momentum to swing the raider around like a weapon. The Korthak ship spun helplessly through space as the iron crane used it to smash into the second raider that was trying to restart its systems. The two pirate vessels crashed together with a sound like thunder that echoed through space. How did he do that? Whispered Navigator Zalmoth. The physics alone should have torn his ship apart, Deathworlder Engineering. Veltar said quietly. Their ships are built to survive things that would destroy anyone else. The third Korthak ship tried to escape while the iron crane was dealing with its companions. But Nari was ready for that too. She fired a spread of projectiles that looked like simple cargo containers but exploded into nets of energy that wrapped around the fleeing ship and dragged it to a stop. Capture nets. Hyunwoo explained casually as if using cargo containers as weapons was perfectly normal. Very useful for stopping ships without destroying them completely. The battle was over in minutes, but the real lesson was just beginning. As the iron crane moved to secure the disabled raider ships, Captain Grixtal tried one last desperate gambit. He activated his ship's self-destruct system. If I cannot win, then we all die together. His voice echoed across space. My ship will explode in 60 seconds and take all of you with it. Veltar felt panic rising in his chest. The Korthak ship was close enough that its explosion would severely damage both the Stellar Harmony and the iron crane. 800 innocent passengers would die because of one pirate's hatred, but the humans were not finished showing what they could do. Nary, Hyunwoo said calmly. Emergency beam out. Already on it, sir, came Nari's reply. Locking onto the raider ship's power core. What happened next seemed like magic to the Valerians. The Iron Crane's tractor beam locked onto something inside the Korthak ship and simply pulled it out through the hull. The Raider's power core came free, trailing sparks and debris, and the Iron Crane flung it away from the ships just as it exploded. The blast lit up space like a small star, but it was far enough away to be harmless. The Korthak ship went dark and dead, floating helplessly with its crew trapped inside. 47 seconds to spare, Nari announced cheerfully. Not bad timing if I do say so myself, Dr. Minho's voice came over the communication system. Captain, should I prepare medical teams for the raider crews? Some of them might be injured from the battle. Veltar stared at the communication panel. The human doctor wanted to help the pirates who had just tried to kill them all. Are you serious? Veltar asked. They were going to enslave your passengers and destroy your ship. They're injured, Minho replied simply. That's all that matters to me as a doctor. Captain Grixtal's voice came weakly over the emergency channel. Why? Why do you help us after what we tried to do? Hyunwoo activated the communication system. Because you're no longer a threat, and because letting people die when we can save them would make us monsters. We're not monsters, Captain Grixtal. But we are pirates. We kill and steal and take slaves. We deserve to die, maybe, Hyunwoo said thoughtfully. But that's not our decision to make. There are courts and judges for that. Our job is just to stop you from hurting innocent people. I do not understand you humans, Grixtal said. You fight like demons but show mercy like saints. What are you? Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. We're what our world made us, Captain. Our planet taught us to be strong enough to survive anything and smart enough to know when fighting is necessary and when it isn't. Dr. Minho had already suited up in emergency gear and was preparing to board the damaged raider ships. Veltar watched through the bridge windows as the human doctor moved from ship to ship treating injured pirates with the same care he had shown for Valerian passengers. The second ship has 3 crew members with serious injuries, Minho reported. I'm bringing them to our medical bay for treatment. You're bringing pirates onto your ship? Veltar asked in amazement. They're patients now, Minho replied. Pirates or not, they deserve medical care. As the hours passed, Veltar began to understand something important about humans. They were indeed as dangerous as the stories said, maybe more dangerous, but their danger was focused and controlled. They could destroy enemy ships with frightening efficiency, but they chose not to kill when they didn't have to. Engineer Nari had returned to the Stellar Harmony to finish the engine repairs. She worked alongside the Valerian engineering crew, as if nothing had happened. But Veltar noticed that the Valerians looked at her differently now. They had seen what human strength could do when it was turned toward violence instead of helping. The magnetic containment field is stable now. She reported to Chief Engineer Nalvin. Your engines should run smoothly for at least 10,000 hours before needing major maintenance. Thank you, Nalvin said quietly. For everything. Just doing my job, Nari replied with a smile. Though I admit the pirate interruption made things more interesting than usual, Captain Hyunwoo spent his time coordinating with nearby law enforcement stations to arrange pickup of the disabled raider ships. He filled out incident reports and answered questions from officials who seemed shocked that pirates had been captured instead of destroyed. You had legal right to destroy them in self-defense, one official pointed out. Why didn't you? Because we didn't need to, Hyunwoo replied. They're no longer a threat, and dead pirates can't tell us about other raider packs or help us find their victims. The official seemed confused by this logic, but accepted the report anyway. As the day ended, Veltar found himself alone with the 3 humans on the bridge of the Stellar Harmony. The repairs were complete, and his ship was ready to continue its journey. The pirates had been secured and were waiting for law enforcement pickup. Everyone was safe. Your people saved us twice, Veltar said to Captain Hyun-woo. First from engine, failure, and then from the raiders. We owe you our lives. You don't owe us anything, Hyun-woo replied. We did what anyone should do when they see people in trouble. But you're humans, Veltar said. Deathworlders. Everyone says your people are violent and dangerous. Nari laughed. We are violent and dangerous. You saw that today, but being dangerous doesn't mean we have to be cruel. Dr. Minho nodded. Our world taught us to fight because we had to, but it also taught us to protect those who couldn't fight for themselves. The two things go together. Violence without purpose is just destruction, Hyun-woo added. But violence used to protect innocent people? That's something worth being dangerous for. Veltar looked out at the stars and thought about what he had learned. Humans were indeed as terrifying as the stories said. But they were terrifying in the way that a guard dog was terrifying. Dangerous to enemies, but loyal to those they chose to protect. Captain Hyun-woo, Veltar said finally. When we reach our destination, I will be filing a report about what happened here. What should I tell them about humans? Hyun-woo smiled, the same friendly smile he had worn when first offering to help. Tell them we're exactly what the stories say we are. We're Deathworlders. We're dangerous and we're strong, and we fight when we have to. But also tell them that we choose very carefully who we fight against and who we fight for. And if they ask why you helped us, tell them, Hyun-woo said as he looked out at the captured pirate ships. That's what Deathworlders do. The stellar harmony was running smoothly again, with all systems operating at full capacity. The engine hummed with steady power, and the life support systems filled every deck with clean air and comfortable warmth. 847 Valerian passengers were safe and healthy and preparing to continue their journey to the outer colonies. But Captain Veltar could not stop thinking about the humans. It had been 6 hours since the law enforcement. Ships had arrived to collect the captured Korthak pirates. Captain Grixtal and his crews were now in custody and would face trial for their crimes. The Iron Crane was preparing to undock and continue on its own cargo route. Soon the humans would be gone and life would return to normal. Except nothing felt normal anymore. Veltar stood in the main airlock watching Captain Hyun-woo and his crew pack their equipment. Dr. Minho was giving final medical instructions to the ship's doctor about caring for passengers who had been affected by the stress of recent events. Engineer Nari was going over maintenance schedules with Chief Engineer Nalvin and explaining how to keep the newly repaired systems running properly. The magnetic containment field should be checked every 1,000 hours of operation, she was saying. Look for micro-fractures in the coil housing and replace the buffer crystals if they show any signs of resonance decay. They were being helpful right up until the moment they left, just as they had been helpful from the moment they arrived. Captain Veltar, Hyun-woo said as he approached with his final equipment case. We'll be departing in a few minutes. Is there anything else we can do before we go? Veltar looked at the human captain and realized he still had so many questions. Questions that had been building in his mind ever since he first saw humans in action. Captain Hyun-woo, he said carefully. May I ask you something personal? Of course. Your people have the power to conquer the galaxy if you wanted to. Your ships are stronger than anything else out here. Your technology is more advanced. Your crews are better trained. Why don't you rule over the rest of us? Hyun-woo considered the question seriously. Because ruling over people is not the same as protecting them. A ruler takes what he wants and tells others what to do. We prefer to help when we're asked and leave people free to make their own choices. But you could force us to accept your help. Could and should are different things, Nari said as she joined the conversation. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should do it. Dr. Minho nodded. On Earth, we had many rulers throughout history who used their power to control others. Most of them caused more suffering than they prevented. We learned from their mistakes, Veltar thought about this. So you choose to be helpful instead of powerful? We choose to use our power to be helpful, Hyun-woo corrected. There's a difference. Power without purpose becomes corruption. But power, used to protect others, becomes something better. What do you call it? Hyun-woo smiled. Responsibility. The word hung in the air between them like a bridge connecting two different ways of thinking. Veltar had never heard it explained quite that way before. "Captain," said Communications Officer Pilara as she approached the group, "the passengers have asked me to give you something." She handed Hyun-woo a small crystalline object that sparkled with inner light. It was a traditional Valerian gratitude crystal given only to those who had saved lives at great personal risk. "They wanted you to know that your actions will be remembered," Pilara said. "Stories of what you did here will be told to our children, and their children." Hyun-woo accepted the crystal with obvious emotion. "Thank you. This means more to us than you know." "Why?" Veltar asked. "You saved 800 lives today. Surely that's reward enough." "Because," Dr. Minho said quietly, "it means you understand that we're not monsters. For too long the galaxy has feared us because of what we might do instead of judging us by what we actually do. The stories about humans will change after today," Veltar promised. "I'll make sure of that." "Don't change them too much," Nari said, with a grin. "It's useful when pirates think we're terrifying. Makes them think twice before attacking innocent ships." "But you are terrifying," Veltar pointed out. "I watched you destroy 3 warships like they were toys." "When we need to be," Hyun-woo agreed, "but only when we need to be. That's the important part." As the humans prepared to leave, Veltar found himself surrounded by crew members and passengers who wanted to say goodbye. Children who had been playing games with Nari during the long repair hours. Elderly passengers who had been treated by Dr. Minho when they felt sick from stress and fear. Engineering crew who had learned new techniques from watching the humans work. "Will we see you again?" asked one young passenger. "The galaxy is big," Hyun-woo said kindly. "But if you ever need help and we're close enough to respond, we'll come." "Promise?" "Promise." The humans walked through the airlock into their own ship, and the heavy doors sealed behind them with a soft hiss. Through the bridge windows, Veltar watched the iron crane undock and move away from the stellar harmony with graceful precision. "Captain," said Navigator Zalmoth, "I'm detecting an incoming message from the iron crane. Put it through." "Captain." Hyun-woo's face appeared on the main screen one last time. "Captain Veltar, we're leaving a communication beacon in this system. If any ship in distress broadcasts on the emergency frequencies, the beacon will relay their message to human vessels in nearby systems. No one should have to face engine failure or pirate attacks alone. You're setting up a rescue network?" "One beacon at a time," Hyun-woo replied. "Eventually, we hope to cover all the major shipping routes through the Outer Rim. Pirates and equipment. Failures are problems we can solve if we know about them quickly enough." "Thank you, Captain." "For everything. Thank you for trusting us," Hyun-woo said. "That meant more than you know." The transmission ended and the iron crane jumped to hyperspace, leaving only stars and empty space behind. Veltar ordered his crew to resume course for their original destination and tried to process everything that had happened. 3 days ago, he had been terrified to even speak with humans. Now he was planning to recommend that all Valerian ships carry human communication protocols in case they needed to call for help. The transformation in his thinking was so complete that it amazed him. "Sir," said Chief Engineer Nalvin as he approached the captain's chair, "I've been thinking about what the humans told us, about using power responsibly." "What about it?" "We have power too, sir. Not like humans, but we have good ships and trained crews and knowledge of safe routes through the Outer Rim. Maybe we could use that power to help others the way the humans helped us." Veltar looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all nodding agreement with the chief engineer's suggestion. The human example had changed more than just their opinions about Deathworlders. It had changed their ideas about what ships and crews should do when they encountered others in need. Very well, Veltar said. From now on, the Stellar Harmony will respond to any distress calls we receive in this sector. We'll carry extra medical supplies and repair equipment. We'll train our crew in emergency rescue procedures. Like the humans do, asked Pilara. Like the humans taught us to do, Veltar corrected. 6 months later, Captain Veltar was called to testify before the Galactic Council about the incident with the Korthak Raiders. The council chambers were filled with representatives from dozens of species, all wanting to hear first-hand accounts of human behavior during combat situations. And you say they chose not to destroy the pirate vessels even when they had clear justification to do so? Asked Councillor Rethmar of the Centaurian delegation. That's correct, Veltar replied. They disabled the ships and captured the crews. For trial instead of simply eliminating the threat, most unusual for a warrior species. I don't think humans see themselves as warriors, Veltar said. I think they see themselves as protectors. There's a difference. Explain. Veltar stood before the assembled council and thought about how to put his experience into words that others could understand. Warriors fight for glory or conquest or personal gain, he said finally. Protectors fight because someone needs to be kept safe. Warriors take what they want from the defeated. Protectors give aid to anyone who needs it, including former enemies. And you believe this distinction is important? I believe it's everything, Veltar replied. A warrior species would have conquered the galaxy by now. A protector species builds rescue beacons and shares medical knowledge and responds to distress calls from strangers. The council chamber was quiet as representatives considered his words. Captain Veltar, said the senior counselor, what would you recommend regarding future relations with human vessels? Veltar thought about Captain Hyunwoo and Engineer Nari and Dr. Minho. He thought about the gratitude crystal they had accepted with such obvious emotion. He thought about the communication beacon they had left behind to help other ships in distress. I recommend, he said clearly, that if you ever find yourself in trouble and need to send a distress call, you pray that humans are the ones close enough to answer. They're the only species I know that's strong enough to fight monsters and gentle enough to heal the innocent. Even though they're Deathworlders? Veltar smiled. Especially because they're Deathworlders. Anyone can choose to be kind, when kindness is easy.